you've struggled to content plan because you have multiple offers, this video is going to be for you. I am going to show you the 2 strategies that I use every single time I go to create a content calendar and I have multiple offers on the table. Let's get started. I'm Kat, welcome back to my channel. I am a biz coach and integrator for creatives helping you make dreams and dailies happen. Today's episode is all about content planning, but before we dive into that, I want to let you guys in on a little something. So for the next 8 weeks, I have an 8-week series planned out for you specific to launch planning. Now, you might be wondering, how does content planning, today's episode, what does that have to do with launch planning? A lot, actually. And this is a really good foundational episode if you are thinking about having a launch in 2022. It's the first one I wanted us to start with. And now for the weeks to follow, we are going to dive even deeper into launch planning. I'm really excited about all of the content that I have in store for y'all. And if you have additional questions or additional things you would like to see me cover in the realm of launch planning or content creation, drop those things in the comments and I'll make sure that we get to them. So for today's episode, we are talking about 2 ways that you can content plan. A lot of you all watching this have multiple offers. So what do I mean when I say that? I mean that you have multiple ways for people to pay you money. You have multiple revenue streams. Maybe you have some services. Maybe you're a wedding photographer or a wedding planner or a business coach. So you have some service packages and you're also getting into passive income. So maybe you have an online course or a membership or digital download templates. You've got a lot of things to talk about with your audience. And when content planning, it can feel confusing to figure out, well, what do I talk about when? And how do I make sure that I'm talking about all of my offers equally, but also pushing certain offers when I want to push certain offers? So today, I thought I would break down how you can content plan strategically and simply with multiple offers. And there are 2 ways that you can do this. The first one is one you've likely heard of before, and it's using something called content buckets. And then the second thing that we're going to get into is priming for a launch. So these are the 2 ways that I content plan every single time I'm planning content. And I mix and match these ways that I content plan throughout my year. So let me back up. Let's talk about content planning when it comes to content buckets. So what are content buckets? Content buckets are ways that you can have themes around the content that you're sharing. So for those of you with multiple offers, you might have a content bucket specific to your brides. And then you might have a content bucket specific to photographers because you've got offers that are specific for brides, and then you've got offers that are specific to other photographers, business to business. You want to teach them how you do certain things in business. That's content buckets in its simplest way. When you are not in any sort of launch mode, content buckets is the best way and the simplest way to content plan when you have multiple offers. So the way that this can look on your calendar, it might be saying, okay, you're going to plan 4 weeks of the month, okay? Week 1, content bucket number 1, for brides. Week 2, content bucket number 2, for photographers. Week 3, content bucket number 3, back to brides. Or excuse me, going back to content bucket number 1 where you're talking to brides. And then week 4, going back to content bucket number 2 where you're talking about, or to photographers. 4 weeks, you're just rotating between those content buckets. Easy for you to navigate how to content plan. And then you're able to continue to show up for your audience all month long by talking about all of the offers that you have on the table. You might break your content buckets down into even more content buckets than that as your offers expand. For myself, I have about 6 content buckets that I like to rotate between when I'm in a content planning season of content buckets. Those buckets, those 6 buckets, are based on my services, they're based on my digital products, they're based on my personal branding, and I kind of infuse them all. And so I have 6 content buckets. And so when I'm planning YouTube videos, when I'm planning email marketing, when I'm planning Instagram, any sort of content that I'm putting out there, I'm thinking about those 6 content buckets. So do yourself a favor and think through what are the content buckets that work for you, that work for your audience, and most importantly, work with your offers. Knowing that you want to rotate between all of those different revenue streams in a really streamlined way, simply, right? Simple. You're just picking and moving back and forth between all of those various offers so that your audience is constantly reminded of what you do and who you serve. So that's the content bucket roundup. Let's get into priming. So priming is the second way that I like to content plan, and I prime my audience when I'm in a season of launch or stepping into a launch season. Priming is, I dare say, the most important part of the launch. Priming is prepping your audience for the launch. It's getting them not only excited, but also expecting and wanting the content that you have to offer. So, for example, if you have a course for systems and workflows, and you love talking about systems and workflows, and you know, like, you are going to open the doors for this course in April, you want to think about, well, how can you start to prime your audience specifically for that content? It's not that your other offers aren't important. Your other services, your other digital products, they are important, but the big one right now is the one you are about to open those doors for, the one you are about to launch. So you want to think backwards and think, I like to do a 6 to 8 week priming period prior to that launch where your content is laser focused. It's heavily focused on priming and on that specific topic. So rather than rotating between 6 content buckets throughout that 6-week period, you're going to focus on one content bucket, systems and workflows. And every week you are going to prime your audience that you are the expert, give them little quick wins about systems and workflows until you open the doors to that course. Now that's a quick crash course in priming. Over the next few weeks, we are going to have some videos that go much more in depth on what it looks like to prime your audience. But I wanted to show you guys this example now because I think it's really important when you're looking at your content calendar to consider what season are you in. And I like to do my content planning quarterly. Y'all know I love to do everything quarterly. 90 days is a great chunk of time. So when I'm looking at my quarterly calendar, I'm not only thinking about goals and I'm thinking about some of the other things that are on the table, I'm also looking at content and I'm figuring out, okay, well, do I have a launch, like a live launch or a big push this quarter? If so, then I want to think through priming content when it comes to my content planning. Or maybe I don't have a live launch this quarter. And so instead of thinking about priming my audience, I want to think about content buckets because I want to just keep showing up and reminding them about all of these various things that I do as I potentially lead into a season of priming in the next quarter. So figuring out which season you are in that quarter and whether you need content buckets or whether you need priming is the first step in the process. If y'all have any other questions when it comes to how you content plan with multiple offers or launching, make sure you drop them in the comments. And remember, we have now entered a season of launch-specific content. I'm so excited. So stay tuned. Every week, we're going to have an episode for the next 8 weeks all around launching. We're going to talk through more details about priming, exactly what content you should share when you're priming your audience. I'm going to talk to you guys about launch timeline, what the full scope looks like, that 6 to 8 week period I talked about. I'm going to break down all of those weeks and help you really nail down what that timeline should look like for you. We're also going to talk through launch conversion, which is super fun, and look at some data and metrics so you feel even more comfortable creating your own launch. I'm excited about what's in store and I can't wait to share more soon. Bye!